And you are listening to the second half of our Chocobo Chasers episode. You just heard our interview with Dev Wild. Dev is an absolute gem. I know Dash was on cloud nine basically throughout that entire interview. He got official FaceTime with Bazel. And she was just great. Honestly, every single person that we've talked to in the Baldur's Gate 3 cast has been just so fucking cool. I really don't have any negative things to say about any of them.
Nope.
And yeah,
Stay
tuned.
it's we've been really lucky that everybody's actually they've been very enthusiastic about interviewing with us too. And it's been really great to see the behind the scenes of this and everything like that. And
yeah.
stay
We're
tuned,
not
like G said.
Media insiders or anything like that.
We're just a bunch of fucking nerds sitting in our rooms.
So I mean, this is like the most privileged thing we could ever get from our standpoint. And so we appreciate anybody who wants to come on or gives us the time.
Absolutely. And we're not media yet. Who knows?
It would be nice to get to that point where we can actually be considered like influencers or some sort of persons of interest in the space, right?
Hey, that's
it's the day when they start emailing G instead of G emailing them because they want to come on. It'll be nice.
We'll get there, boys.
I mean that's why I loved about like Scott and Sam is that they went back, listened to like our previous interviews, and they're like, yeah, I want to do it. And like it's good that we can make that impression.
Agreed. We love doing this. And we even like 2 hours ago, we just did another interview, which is going to be part of our episode in a week. And we're extremely excited to share that with you guys. We have another interview scheduled for this weekend. So that'll be 3 interviews in a 7-day span. It's been pretty nuts, but it's been a lot of fun. And it's going to continue to be a lot of fun. We've got more stuff kind of on the way. And as the actors strike, when it does eventually come to an end, we have some people who've agreed to come on after that, but they've got their obligations to make sure that they're not doing any sort of press or anything while they're doing that. So stay tuned, because I think you guys will be very intrigued to see who's going to be coming on. But without further ado, let's dive right in. So as we normally do, go ahead and start the second half of our episodes. We're going to talk, what are we playing? I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to kick us off here because mine are going to kind of be into what we're going to be talking about next. I played a lot of different things this week. I played Cyberpunk Phantom Liberty and beat it. I played Resident Evil 4 Separate Ways and beat it. I have restarted Final Fantasy 16 so that I can try and get the Platinum Trophy before Spider-Man 2 comes out. And played a little bit more Lies of P. It's been a very, very busy week in terms of games. But I want to say Phantom Liberty is awesome. Dogtown is a great new section of the game. There's a lot of new like side quests and things like that. There's a new character in the DLC who I really enjoy, and they're kind of the main character aside from Idris Elba. And honestly, just had a great time in the DLC. I won't spoil too much because I know Eric and Dash are still going to be playing. Separate Ways. I haven't talked about this much with you two, but Separate Ways may be in my top tier DLCs of all time. Of all time. Resident Evil 4 is a perfect game. It is the perfect blend of action and horror. The remake does everything that you would want the original to be remade as. The graphics are easily some of the best in all of gaming. That RE engine is just working overtime in these games right now. Separate Ways, as someone who didn't play the original Separate Ways, this was so cool. And for only $10, the amount of gameplay that you get is wild. Graphically, it is so cool. There's a lot of tie-ins into what is probably potentially going to be Resident Evil 5 remake. I really just don't have enough good things to say about it. Lily Gao is amazing as Ada Wong. And Wesker's new voice actor, who you only hear a tiny little bit in Resident Evil 4, was very, very, relevant in this DLC, and it was great. I really don't have enough good things to say about it. If Separate Ways and Resident Evil 4, if you're combining those together, it's just like one package. It's an easy game of the year contender, and Resident Evil 4 already was by itself, but just honestly immense. I can't say enough good things about it. I'll pass it on to Erik. Erik, what are you playing this week, man?
So this weekend, I went really hard on some Counter-Strike 2 and some Valorant. Got some of the competitive stuff in, and then when I wasn't getting told to kill myself by people online on Counter-Strike, I was playing some Cyberpunk. And I finished Act 1, like I told you guys before, I'm enjoying it, but it just feels so much slower than the first time I played it. Maybe it's just because by the end of the game, I was so OP and everything like that. I don't know. It's been 3 years since. I mean, it's almost been 3 years since I played through it the first time. So, finished Act 1. This I will say, you look at Starfield's like characters and stuff like that when you're in conversations, and it's just like, man, Cyberpunk is miles ahead of this game. Well, light years if you think about it. So it's pretty crazy to see, like, just like the random ticks some characters have in Cyberpunk. Like, if you don't say something to them for a while, they like look around, they're like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
You gonna answer me? And so it's still great, beautiful game. I got the DLC car that comes with like it's like the Quadra, custom Quadra for the Phantom Liberty DLC. That thing's awesome. So riding around in that, because I can't afford any of the nice cars yet. I haven't had the chance to buy them because I just finished the part. I just finished like the quest after Takamura saves you after you get popped in the head by Dex.
Gotcha.
So that's pretty much it for me, and then we can see what Dash has been up to.
Well, I decided to dive a little bit into Hades since I picked that up. Haven't gotten too far. I think, it's just the way that kind of game is that you're meant to die over and over again and slowly build up your strength. So I've tried to do that first boss a couple times so far and haven't gotten there yet, but I mean, I only played for like 4 hours, so it wasn't like I spent too much time in it. But I also did the Separate Ways also, so I got that completed, and it was like a 5-6 hour experience. Nice to see like perspective on playing as Ada and seeing like that storyline parallel with Leon's. But I mean, that's exactly what it was in the original. We had the missing boss from Resident Evil 4 that didn't make into the remake. So anybody who's complaining about that, it's actually a really great boss fight. And
it is
like, he's like, or you two, I guess, it was a presence throughout the DLC for the most part.
Yeah.
Also, we got our laser hallway again, so you can be happy about that also. It was really cool seeing Wesker frequently in the game because Wesker's always fun, and I'm really curious what direction they're going to take Resident Evil 5, because we're probably going to have a whole new game compared to what the original was.
Yeah,
like
especially with some of the like takes they kind of went with in Resident Evil 4. Like, it definitely, I felt like, leaned a lot more into the horror throughout than the original Resident Evil 4, which was, the village portion of the game was very scary originally, but once you entered in some of the other areas like the castle and everything, I think it lost a lot of that like horror luster, and so now, but it retained that in the remake. So
I mean, yeah, the regenerators are probably scarier than they've ever been.
I like hearing the sound they make in my headphones. I get the creeps just thinking about it. It's just like
and it's like, like in the original Resident Evil 4, you're kind of just in these gray, dull, lit up areas, and then in the remake, they throw you into pitch black, dark rooms, and you just like all you hear them. You don't know when and where they're gonna come from.
Just give me the fucking creeps. It's just, ugh.
But yeah, I mean, like G said, it was a really great experience, and I'm really looking forward to what they do next with this new Res Evil timeline. Uh, but after that, it's been nothing but Cyberpunk for me, trying to, do my first playthrough of Cyberpunk because I'm the one that hasn't experienced it before this 2.0 patch. So I really have nothing to go on to base it off of. So people ask me, "Oh, how you like 2.0?" I'm like, "Well, I like it. Like, I can't tell you
Yeah.
how I can compare it to the original because I didn't play it back then, but I'm just kind of like spent a lot of time just running around beating people's heads in with a iron pipe so I could get my solo attribute up to get my carrying capacity because I don't like carry limits, so I'm gonna do whatever I can to make sure I can carry as much as possible. But I mean, it seems like everything kind of just scales up with your level. Like I'm a level 33, and it's like as I level up, you start getting higher tier drops. So it's like I'm starting to get purple stuff dropping. I'm
Yeah.
tier 4
You'll,
plus even.
yeah, and you'll as you progress in the story, you'll start to see more purple will be much more common. Yellow, then there was a new color. It was like a red color that I saw for the first time in Phantom
Iconic.
Liberty.
Oh,
It was past iconic. It was something new. But very,
cool.
very cool. How far are you in the story right now, Dash?
so I mean, I'm in Act 2, like where you get Johnny Silverhands, and you can actually open up the whole map at that point. But like, kind of like I did all the gigs and side jobs before I even progressed to that point. So that's kind of just what I've been doing now. Is I've been going to all the different districts, doing all the gigs and side jobs there before doing the main quest because that's kind of just how I always play, unfortunately. I mean, I get really caught up in side content, and it's like that one meme where it's like, oh yeah, here's the first boss of the game, but you've been doing only side content, so now you're
You're level
overpowered.
35 on a level 10 boss or whatever.
I mean, I don't think they
Um,
really do that with Cyberpunk anyway, since
no.
it seems like it's pretty much level scaling. But I mean, I'm having fun with it. Like I love running around with a katana and just slashing people apart. Like I'll just bum rush people. That's like majority of my kills have been probably with a katana. I have barely used a gun in this game.
There are a few guns, especially when you start getting smart weapons, that are really, really fun to use.
Yeah, and I probably should actually have the cyber tech to use those smart gun features because I still don't. I unlocked it by doing one of the side gigs where you get like the Tiger Fanes
Yeah.
cyber tech that allows you to use the smart guns.
Mhm.
But like the last thing I did was doing some. I think I finished all the gigs in the Badlands, so now I'm gonna move on to the next district with that. But
Cool.
I'm really looking forward to seeing how the rest of the game is. I'm sure it's not as long of an experience as I probably thought it would be.
You can get through the main story in about 20-25 hours, I think.
Yeah.
It's not terribly long, but there are stories that don't necessarily feel so much like side quests, like especially when you're if you want to get more options for that, like the final mission and everything. Because whether it is Hanako, whether it is Takamura, whether like there's a lot of different ways to kind of go about it.
Yeah,
And
I kind of did some research on that just so I could prepare myself and know
yeah,
what quest to do and not do yet. So I know like there's the three main branches, which is like the Arasaka, there's the Afterlife Club quest line, and then
yep,
there's the nomads.
yeah. I really enjoy the Afterlife quest line. It's a pretty good one. But CDPR is awesome
So
writing.
I guess
So
my primary question is how many of those quest lines can I do up to a certain point without like cutting myself off, or
so
is it
there will be a message that pops up that tells you like you're about to enter in the end game. So
okay?
you'll have clear
So
indication that you're there.
All right, I don't want. I just was worried about that because I was like, "Oh, what if I start this quest line? Like, I lock myself out of the ending I do want because I want to experience at least the lead up to all these
Yeah.
different options without having to dedicate myself to one."
Well, and what's cool is that after you finish the game, it'll just put you right back at that point too.
Okay.
So even if
So-
you did go ahead and do that, you'd be just right back right before the final mission. So
Okay, so it gives you the option to basically experience all the endings pretty easily then.
yeah, the last mission takes a little while, but it's
Yeah.
but it's worth it. It's a good one. So Erik had had some issues with something that we've been talking about, and let's provide some context here. So Creative Assembly is a game studio known around the world for making the Total War series. And Erik, I'll pass it on to you, man. I think that's enough of an opening.
So we'll start. So like Creative Assembly, like a few other studios have announced they're laying off quite a few people. And this just kind of aggravated me a little bit, you know, because they've got a game coming out next week, Total War Pharaoh. And they canceled a project called Hyenas. I think we talked about that. It was something that they don't, it's just like a shooter or something like that.
Yep.
As far as I know, they've only made one other game besides Total War, and it was Spartan Total Warrior. It was a third person hack and slash type game. It was actually a lot of fun. I played the shit out of it when it was on the PlayStation 2. But Total War Pharaoh, like, who wants this game? Like, I mean, people definitely want the callback to total, like, historical Total Wars for sure. Like, if you go read the subreddit, that's what people want. And I'm not trying to show them this game before it comes out, but like, it seems like the community wants like Empire 2 or really Medieval 3 before they want anything like this. If I want to play something in like ancient Egypt, I'll just go play like that at Rome Total War or Rome 2 Total War. I think that the Roman Empire, like the Roman part of it's a lot more interesting for that time in the, I guess you could say, antiquity type period. I don't really care for the Bronze Age too much. You know, they made Total War Troy and they made it exclusive to Epic Store for like a year or so like that. And so it's like I wasn't gonna download Epic Store just to get Total War Troy. So fuck all that. I mean, it's just especially because they utilize so much of the workshop to download mods to all the Total War games that are on there. I think it starts with really like Rome 2, maybe I think you can do it in Empire, but Rome 2, you could start putting mods on Shogun 2, Attila, all those. You could put different mods and shit on there. And it's so streamlined. If you want a Warhammer like mod, you just go on there, you hit subscribe, and it's downloaded into your game file, and you're done. You don't have to go to Nexus Mods or anything like that. Even though Nexus Mods is great, it's the best mod managing thing that I've used so far. But it's
Steam
just
Workshop's very handy to have as someone who doesn't know how to download and manage that kind of stuff too.
And you know, it's frustrating because recently they've just been telling people like if they don't get the sales they want on stuff, they'll just stop support for it. They told the Warhammer fan base that if they didn't get support for the shitty DLCs they are putting out for $25, this is a $25 DLC that gives you 3 legendary lords and a couple of small different changes to some campaigns. It's ridiculous. $25 for a thing, and they're saying, "Oh, current costs. Look, costs are up everywhere." I get that. $25 for a DLC is half the game, and you're getting not even a tenth of the content.
They released a lot of DLC for those games.
And then you know, and I'll just go back to Three Kingdoms. You have Three Kingdoms, which is it's my favorite, I think, non Warhammer game recently. I mean, it's really the only non Warhammer game besides Troy. I don't really care for Troy too much. So you've got this. They have amazing support for it at launch. Everybody loves it. Everybody's playing it. They ignore everything everybody wants for DLC, and they're constantly berated. Nobody likes it. So instead of just listening and making better DLC, they just decided that the DLCs weren't selling enough, so nobody wanted it. So they just stopped support for the game. And they moved on to the next project. And then they left out some of the cool things that they added for Three Kingdoms that was supposed to be what everybody thought were test runs for Warhammer 3 out. The diplomacy system in Three Kingdoms is the best one they've done, and they just completely ignored that and went back for all the, like the different races and things you have in Warhammer. The diplomacy system is very cut and dry, pretty shitty. And you take what is a good system in Three Kingdoms and you just leave it out. Look, those are ambitious games. I get it. Some things have to be on the cutting floor, but you're going to sit here and tell me that you can put this shit on these shitty $25 DLCs and leave that out, and that can't be added later? Fuck out of here. That's all I got to say on that. They've just, what used to be one of my favorite studios has really kind of just, I mean, they've just been pretty disappointed the last year or so, I feel. 2 years, maybe. Give us Medieval 3. That's what we want. Not fucking Pharaoh. Shit out of here.
Well, I imagine it'll probably be a minute before their next project. But I mean, even for
another year.
Yeah, as
Yeah.
game progression has taken a lot longer, as we've seen. They have been consistently putting out games, if not every year, every other year for pretty good bit. So, hopefully they can kind of keep that up. And
so maybe they were laying off people on other teams that were working on some of these smaller games and just trying to streamline it. And it's like, hey, let's reevaluate. Maybe we need to just concentrate on one thing at a time and put things out every couple of years. Hey, look, I get that. But it's not been very good management, in my opinion.
Yeah. I would definitely agree with that.
There's that whole thing about the Capcom CEO talking about how they're not charging enough for games too. It's like, oh, we're already spending $70. But I mean, that's a whole nother conversation about like rising costs and the fact that some of these game companies are offering, for $100, you can play the game for $4 for 4 days earlier.
And the thing is, I am fine with that, because that is a choice, and that is, if people want to pay to play a few days earlier. I did that with Hogwarts Legacy, and I didn't regret it. I paid $10 to get the deluxe edition and played it 3 or 4 days early, had a blast playing it.
Yeah.
So
I think there's a difference. If the only thing you're offering is that extra early time, I don't think you should be charging $30 for that. But like, usually they come with the Ultimate Edition, right? And those Ultimate Editions usually come with some DLC, cosmetics, or something. Now, when they say, here's an art book and soundtrack, I'm kind of like, how many people actually care about that stuff?
Yeah.
It's a very small subset. Like
it has to be a game that you like absolutely love, that you're going to.
Most of the soundtracks are going to be on Spotify anyways. Who cares?
Exactly. So, yeah, we'll have to see what happens with Creative Assembly, because they're going through a rough patch, and hopefully everybody who was affected by the layoffs, they can go ahead and land on
Epic
their feet.
Having their big layoffs.
Epic,
too.
yeah, it's been a week full of layoffs in the gaming industry, which is kind of insane, because it's like also one of the greatest gaming years of all time, if not the greatest gaming year of all time. But we're seeing this widespread, just job issues across just this entire industry.
You have to wonder if it was how many overhires maybe from COVID, and they're just like, man, we have way too many people. Because the tech industry in general is down with a lot of layoffs.
I know that Epic is for sure an issue of overhiring, because the way that they had grown, there was no way that it was going to be sustainable forever. But I think that they hired as if it was just going to keep going and going and going and going, but it didn't end up that way, obviously. So
did you happen to see like the tweets from David Szymanski? He's like the creator of little indie games like Iron Lung and Dusk and Squirrel Stapler. But he's been going after Epic after the layoffs, basically saying that their whole plot is basically to like be anti-consumer with their storefront. And he apparently, like, they laid off some dude that basically said that Epic's trying to go into making their store into a platform. So whatever that means, basically. And this small indie developer basically is saying that whatever, he's like, I don't care if Epic is paying us developers more money to sell their games on their platform, I'm gonna go with Steam, because Steam has always treated me right. And
Yeah.
so it makes me he basically says all Epic does is throw their money around at developers to basically get people on their platform, and they do nothing to improve their platform. How many years has Epic Game Store been out, and there still isn't a shopping cart on their goddamn store? So you have to
Epic Game
buy,
Store blows, dude.
yeah, you have to buy each individual game one by one. Oh, it has multiple DLC. Well, now you got to do one by one each DLC. You can't just buy everything. You can't put a bunch of stuff in your shopping cart and purchase it all at once. No, you have to. I've never liked their storefront. The free games every month, I guess, is their way to kind of bring people in. Some people take advantage of that. I've never, the only things I bought on Epic Game Store is the Kingdom Hearts games for PC. Even if I have them on PlayStation, I bought them on PC because I'm thinking to myself, I could do some mods on this. So, I mean, I wanted to have some fun with it because I've seen like randomizer mods for Kingdom Hearts where you can get like Oblivion like right at the beginning of the game, possibly.
Oh, that's dope.
Yeah, the randomizer mods can add a little bit more variety and craziness to your runs. But I mean, that's the only thing I've ever bought in Fortnite. But that's a free to play game, and you just. Oh yeah, and Dead Island 2, because that was an exclusive, and I really wanted to play Dead Island 2, and I don't touch it. Steam, I have over 700 games on it. It's convenient to just have everything in one spot.
I have over 100 games on Epic, but I have never paid for one.
Yeah. So. Okay, that's my rant.
So, in addition to everything going on at Creative Assembly, another big bombshell which dropped this week is Jim Ryan, CEO of PlayStation, is retiring. 30 years at the studio. It's pretty wild, just because it seems like, I mean, this kind of came out of nowhere. He publicly came out and said that it was the travel that was the hard part. He's worked for PlayStation for 30 years. So, I mean, he's at that age where it makes sense. So now the question comes on, who could be the next president at PlayStation? With Jim Ryan, we saw an unprecedented shift towards live service games that we've never seen before. And it kind of backfired in PlayStation's face. A big issue with that is the Last of Us multiplayer project is basically hanging on by a thread, if not canceled already. And a big part of that is because with PlayStation's acquisition of Bungie, they not only purchased them to have access to Destiny and make it, like a PlayStation franchise, but also because they wanted their input in terms of helping them with live service and how they could help some, creating other, massive multiplayer games. And I would love to see someone step into the role who has more of a focus on single player games, as I think that is what helped shape the PS3, PS4 era. And the CEO before Jim Ryan had a huge emphasis on this. Sean, trying to remember. But the CEO prior to him had a huge emphasis on these games. And there was a lot of not hostility, but there was a lot of friendliness between all of the CEOs of the major game companies, Xbox, PlayStation, Nintendo, like during that period of time. And so one name that really jumps out to me is Helman Holst, who is currently he is the head of PlayStation's worldwide studios. He was originally the managing director of Guerrilla. And he kind of helped them bring Horizon to life. And that propelled him from managing Guerrilla to now managing all of PlayStation Studios. I think it would make sense. He is like a gamer. and he understands fans. Jim Ryan, if you see like pictures of him holding a controller, it's like he looks like this holding, and it's like when you see a famous person hold a controller in like a TV, ad or something like that. Like, it's fake because they're not holding it right. But he's just a name that continually pops out that would make sense to go ahead and kind of step in. I don't know if you guys had any names that you had thought of that you thought might, be able to go ahead and step in, or maybe somebody that they may potentially look at.
I'm going to be completely honest. I don't really pay attention to people that are in like the executive positions at these companies, because usually like we see them, I don't know, in most cases we kind of see them cycle in and out, and it, depending on the state of the company, if things aren't going well, he just gets a multi-million severance package and they move on to the next one, right?
Agreed.
I'm just hoping whoever this new CEO is, like, I felt like we kind of discussed this in a previous episode, I know, but like PlayStation's kind of just been making these questionable changes to their services and what are they offering, because now that they're pretty much the ones on top, it seems like their quality kind of just went down in terms of what they offer us. And now they're raising prices, and they're not telling us what benefit we get out of these raised prices. It's just kind of like, here's Game Pass, $10 a month, right? What am I getting from this besides, there's a good library there for PlayStation, and sometimes the PlayStation Plus games that are free every month are good, and it kind of pays for itself if you take that into account. But sometimes the games have to be good for me to feel like I'm getting that justified, because I mean, this month it's Callisto Protocol, right? Not the best game, but at least, hey, I don't have to pay for it now.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm gonna try it now, but
I watched the YouTube playthrough and I felt like that was good enough for me.
I did buy Dead Space though, so we'll get to play the actual good
that's the much better experience right there. And like, I thought Dead Space was just going to be a remaster, but when I actually saw what they added and changed in this game, I'm like, wow, I gotta get this now. So
yeah,
I still need to pick up Dead Space at some point. I should have when it was on sale on Steam for like $30, I think.
Yeah, I think it was $35, and they gave it the Resident Evil treatment, which is, that should be your blueprint for every remake going forward. Like, hey, this is how you go ahead and remake these games. You make it for a modern audience. Upscale is too slight of a word in terms of graphics, because they completely overhauled everything, gameplay mechanics, some really, really solid voice acting, and honestly, just it is the gold standard for remakes at this point. So we'll have to see what happens. But I think that was kind of everything we're going to go ahead and touch on tonight. You guys have anything else you wanted to talk about here before we go ahead and close out?
Last of Us multiplayer gone, correct?
Yeah.
Right. We did go ahead and briefly touch on it, but
okay.
So there are some reports coming out right now that the Last of Us multiplayer project is not dead in the water, but is basically as close as you can be.
It's almost like KOTOR's dead.
Yeah, KOTOR, and unfortunately, we interviewed Rafael Sparge, and he confirmed with us that it was defunct at that point, and that was months ago. Well, now they're removing any basically video evidence that there ever was an announcement that KOTOR remake was a thing, and that's just unfortunate, honestly.
So even though we got to break the news, but I'm not sure. Do NDAs apply when the game, like the project, is dead now?
I think that it may not, and I think that's why he kind of felt comfortable sharing it at that point. But everybody has been waiting with bated breath for this Naughty Dog project, because The Last of Us 2 came out in 2018, 2019? And
was it COVID year?
I thought it was 17, maybe.
Here.
Oh wait, no, it was 18, yeah.
18.
So June 19th, 2020 is when, so COVID is
Huh.
when The Last of Us Part 2 came out. So it's been 3 years.
Feels like
And
so much longer.
it does feel like so much longer. And, you know, Naughty Dog is a studio who they're going to take their time on projects, and I'm not upset at that, like especially because the quality of product they put out is kind of unheralded. But in terms of, their development cycle, they have had The Last of Us Part 1, the original one, came out in 2013. They ended up doing The Last of Us Remastered for PS4, and that came out in 2014, so about a year later. So since then, they've released Uncharted 4 and Uncharted The Lost Legacy, The Last of Us Part 2, and then Uncharted Legacy of Thieves Collection, which is Uncharted 4 and Uncharted Lost Legacy, but for PS5, and The Last of Us Part 1. So I mean, there is no new games since then, and it is a little like skeevy that you're just cashing in on older games, and you're not remaking these games. Like, so The Last of Us Part 1 was a pretty huge graphical upgrade, and like quality of life upgrade. There was some pretty substantial stuff there.
New models and stuff too.
Yeah. And
it's been what, 4 or 5 upgrades from Last of Us 1 so far.
yeah, they're
It's
trying
good
to,
on the Skyrim level.
yeah, I was gonna say they're trying to get into the Skyrim territory here, but this Untitled Last of Us game was supposed to be kind of the next one, and it was supposed to be kind of a multiplayer, co-op project. And then we just didn't hear anything. And they've publicly said, like, we want to tell you more, but we just can't yet. And it's like, well, now if I'm assuming they're working on more than one game, because most studios are.
Yeah.
And whether that be The Last of Us Part 3, I'm assuming it probably will be, and it will probably be the last
I think
game in that
some
series.
sort of insider, I think, proposed that there was some calls for Last of Us 3. So,
and there are rumors that they are working on a new IP. Because I know that Neil Druckmann has stated like he would like to, kind of stretch their wings a little bit and see what other games are, they can make. And I don't dislike that decision at all, but we've hit a point.
Jack and Daxter.
I think you're gonna have to wait a little longer for that one, Dash.
I don't think it's ever gonna happen, unfortunately.
Maybe, well, what would be a great idea is to give like things like that to some of your newer studios, like Blue Point is officially a studio for PlayStation now. Like, I'd love to see them work on a Jack and Daxter remake. And they could do like the first like 2 or 3 games, even like kind of how they did the Uncharted collection. And it just seems like they are at a kind of a standstill in terms of their development. And this kind of ties right back into PlayStation is in a weird situation right now where they have all these premier studios and nothing to kind of show for it. Like, there's nothing in the short or long term that we know of at these studios that's going to kind of push them into the latter part of the PS5 and what's eventually going to be the PS6 life cycle. We know Insomniac has Spider-Man 2 coming out in 2 weeks. We know they have a Wolverine game, and they have consistently been, they're carrying PlayStation on their back right now, if we want to be frank. Like, Spider-Man Remastered, Spider-Man Miles Morales, Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, and Spider-Man 2 and Wolverine. Those are all games made by Insomniac during the PS5 era. That is insane. And Naughty Dog has The Last of Us Part 1. That is the only game that has come out during and Uncharted Legacy of Thieves collection, but it's just an upscaled version of Uncharted 4 and Lost Legacy. So
Insomniac out here breeding like rabbits, bro.
They
pumping shit
just,
out.
TikTok.
And it's quality too. They're not just putting out fucking Assassin's Creed Origins, Odyssey, all this bullshit titles. They're doing like really, really good work. So
speaking of Assassin's Creed, Mirage comes out in 2 days, and I felt like there's no buildup. That's like, are
it's
they
a little
promoting?
worrisome.
Yeah, like I feel like with a game like, I always felt like Assassin's Creed games were always those big releases. Like I remember seeing so much for Ragnarok when that came out, but Mirage has not gotten the same amount of love and promotion that Ragnarok did.
Yeah.
And it makes me, oh, Valhalla, that's what it was.
I was like, this motherfucker talking about God of
Ragnarok
War?
was the
How dare you
the
shame
expansion for it.
Norse stuff. I mean,
how dare you shame God of War in my presence?
Ragnarok was the name of like the DLC, right? Or
I
something.
didn't play that shit,
Yeah,
man.
no,
I played
it
that game
was,
for like
yeah,
20
yeah.
hours, dude, and got bored. Fucking said, fuck this. I deleted that shit.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it's just because I don't pay attention to Ubisoft games that
Game
much
fucking
anymore.
sucked.
I don't know. I'm sure it's going to be a great game. It looks like a nice return to form for Assassin's Creed. And
It is.
So,
and what's surprising is that the game comes out in 2 days. We don't have any reviews yet either. There must be an embargo on the game where they're not allowing people to talk about it, but that's also worrisome because it's like, does your game suck and that's why you don't want people to know about it? Or, it's also coming out in a not great time. You're coming out 2 weeks before Spider-Man and right
A
after
week after Phantom
Starfield.
Liberty.
Yeah, Phantom Liberty, like, separate ways. Like, there's a lot of games right now.
A lot of bad management this year on some of these companies that didn't have the big titles,
especially with the
why-
games costing more now,
Yeah.
like we can't get all these games coming out. At least the average person can't. It's becoming like a luxury to be able to buy games on release.
I have to prioritize because I would like to play Lords of the Fallen 2, and that comes out in like 10 days, and I have not heard anything about it. Alan Wake 2 is getting a lot of press right now, and that is one I'm so insanely excited for. I'm gonna try and play Alan Wake right after I'm done with Spider-Man, and hopefully finish it in time. But even if I don't, I'll just play Alan Wake 2 because it looks awesome.
And don't even, with November, that's when COD comes out, and COD's gonna dominate that. People are gonna buy it. I mean, so in 2 days, October 5th, we get the COD Next, where they're gonna do like the reveal for the campaign, the multiplayer, the zombies. So they're gonna show us what changes are coming. They did today they released the multiplayer reveal trailer that showed all, we're gonna have our good old fashioned Modern Warfare 2 maps, but with updated gameplay basically. And
yeah,
I'm hoping that this isn't gonna just feel like a DLC expansion kind of thing for Modern Warfare 2, but I know like they are making significant gameplay improvements. Like there's going to be slide canceling, there's going to be reload canceling, aim down sights with a red dot isn't going to be slower than iron sights. Like stuff like that is going to make the game, small improvements are going to make the game better. And then I saw that they released a video for like their new gunsmith system.
Yeah, I saw that. That looks sick.
It's like, oh, you can convert your LMG into a bullpup, or you can turn a pistol into like a little mini SMG. Basically, it's the aftermarket parts might be more interesting, but I kind of liked what they did with the gunsmith, but it definitely needed improvement for Modern Warfare 2, because it's like kind of like once you unlock the specific attachment, you're using that attachment on all your guns, so there wasn't much variety after that point.
Well, I mean, we're finally kind of leading into the time where games are going to cool off a little bit for the holiday season, but
then January comes and
we're right back to it. So well, I think with that, I think we've covered everything we were going to go ahead and talk about tonight. So definitely want to thank again Dev Wild for joining us on the show today. Yes. It was absolute blast. We love all of our guests who come onto this show because it is just an absolute privilege for us. We are so excited to share next week who our guest is going to be as well, and we have another guest the following week. So it's going to be a lot of fun. And again, thank you to everybody who listens. We always appreciate you, and stay tuned. We are getting close to holiday season. We are going to be doing some more giveaways. and we want to put some games in your pocket. So stay tuned.
Yep, have a good one.
Thank y'all.